Hello, hello. How's it going? Hi, folks who are joining from a hybrid capacity. In person, they're just sorting out some tech issues, and we will get started in just a little bit.
gotta be an empty room. It's pretty cool. I mean, it's definitely every time I walk in here, it brings in memories from like my wife, of course, got her marriage certificate. Oh, several floors up from here. Yeah. And then, of course,
I will have to.
well, I'm really done.
Let us know and then we can
Oh, sorry.
yeah, we'll talk.
I know. Okay, thank you so much. Bye.
Yes, we're getting a bit of an echo on the online side, attending in person and also joining this link. Would you mind having them mute?
So if anyone is in the room joining the WebEx, if you could please mute your volume. I think we actually have to disconnect.
Excellent. Thank you. That's better.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Dr. Chelsea. I serve as the program manager for the Region 10 Opioid Abatement Council. It is always something, right? We got IT issues today. Thank you all for bearing with me. We are going to start off with some introductions, make sure that we have attendance and quorum. Then we'll move into a recovery story from Sam Wilson. Then we'll go into some governance, a finance report, some general updates from me, and then the bulk of the meeting is going to be dedicated to understanding the rubric and how to evaluate the incoming requests for applications. So I'm just going to do a roll call. I'm sorry, Leslie, your name is spelled wrong on this slide.
Not the first time.
Let me see if I can this. I'm sharing this screen. Rosie, are you able to see the slide deck?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Commissioner Del Kemper.
Hi, everyone. Jeffco Commissioner Leslie Dahlkemper, Chair of the GROC. Welcome. Good to see you all here in person and also online.
Commissioner Marlin.
Yes, hi, good afternoon. Good to see you all.
Commissioner Hollingsworth.
Hello, I'm here in person.
Mike Prang.
Logistics.
Heidi McCollum.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you.
Kevin Armstrong. Kevin's alternate, Greg Demo. Mayor Starker.
Hi, good afternoon. Bud Starker, Mayor of the City of Lee Ridge. Glad to be here.
Janine.
Yep, Janine from Idaho Springs. Thank you.
Troy Cooper.
Troy's here. Good morning or afternoon.
Mike Miller. No, I'm ready right now. We come back at 30. Again, if you're in the room and you're on the WebEx, please mute your volume. Michael Miller or Dr. Story.
Dr. Story is here. Hello, I'm Dr. Story, Jefferson County Public Health Department Executive Director, and I am now the member representing public health. So we're flipping.
Okay, I will notate that. Thank you. Dr. Ryan. Emily Cooper, Dr. Ryan's delegate. Alisa Witt. Elisa's delegate, Mary. Mary Berg. I think I saw.
Hi, it's Barb Weinstein on behalf of Human Services for Mary Berg.
Thank you. Sarah Casano.
Hi, I'm Sarah Gillingham, Sarah Casano's alternate.
Thank you. Dr. Gillingham. Janie Barker.
I am here.
And Kristen Heath was not going to be here, and Judge Jones was also not going to be here. So we are at quorum, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes, we do have quorum. If you are a non-voting member, if you are an advisory board member, or just a community attendee, there is a QR code right here for you to check in, or a link that you can click through the slide deck that is linked in the agenda and also dropped in the chat. I will be reading that out after our recovery story. So I will go ahead and pass it to Sam.
Awesome. Hey guys, my name is Sam Wilson. I work with professionally, I work with the Full Circle program in Denver. And I have been in recovery for the last 12 years. I grew up in Jefferson County for almost my entire life. I grew up on Lookout Mountain, 10 minutes from here. So went to Golden High School, for at least a little while. Dropped out of Golden High School, unfortunately, largely as a result of drug use. But, spent the majority of my life in Golden. And how long do I have? 8 minutes roughly?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So to make it really simple, I was extremely fortunate in my upbringing. My family, I think we're also very fortunate. And as a kid, I got to, I'd say I got everything I needed and a lot of what I wanted. I had the opportunity to go, live in Europe a couple of times as a kid. My parents were, married and had a pretty sweet house right on the foothills. And I think my mom specifically had grown up in this alcoholic household and had basically decided that she wanted to do everything in her power to give her kids something different than what she had. And I really think that she accomplished that. I think she was successful. I think through forces beyond my family's control, I ended up having some pretty significant mental health challenges as a youth. And right around the age of 13, as most teenagers do, I think I felt chronically out of place everywhere I went and was worried at all times that I wasn't putting my hands in the right place and I wasn't, walking the way that I should walk or saying the things that I should say. Like sort of felt like an alien on my own planet, I think, as most teenagers do. And I had never been a particularly cool kid, quote unquote. At recess, most of the other kids were playing sports, and me and my 4 friends were like slaying imaginary trolls with our stick swords in the corner, that sort of thing. And I ended up finding initially marijuana, and for me, basically from that point on, in my head, there were 2 kinds of drugs: good drugs and better ones. And I think drugs and alcohol ultimately represented a solution for me. It was obviously, it was a ton of fun. That's why I did it. But it also was instant reprieve from the emotional pains and insecurity of adolescence. It undid this knot that I had in my gut that had been just growing for a really long time. It made me cool. It was an instant group of friends. Friendships, which had always been this sort of nebulous, challenging thing to me, became as simple as you get high, me too, we're cool. That's it. I don't have to know anything about you. I don't have to know your middle name or if you have parents that's the only thing that matters. And for me, it was very progressive from there on. Within 4 years of that, I had a near fatal prescription medication overdose, not trying to end my life, really just trying to have fun. I had been to a number of different treatment programs. I had started using, towards the end of my drug use, I'd started using opiates and had gotten to this place ultimately where I knew that drug use was destroying my life, but especially, as an adolescent, it was the only tool that I had. It was the only thing that I knew worked. And so my greatest fear was that if I did actually decide to fully commit to recovery, that there would never be anything as good as getting high, but getting high wasn't even working anymore. If that makes sense. It was like because it used to shut off the voice in the back of my head telling me incessantly that I wasn't good enough and that everybody hated me and all these things. But by the end, I would be high and that voice would still be there. But again, it was for me, I think I just lacked hope in a pretty profound way, that there was anything better than drug and alcohol use. And I was fortunate enough I think there were a few things that ended up being the catalyst for my recovery. One was my family got a huge amount of support from parents who had been through similar experiences. And so they learned to not own what was not theirs, to not take that they didn't cause it, they couldn't cure it, they couldn't control it, but that they could have boundaries. And so they learned that through the support of other parents who understood, which ultimately made my pursuit of the drug lifestyle much more painful. But I think that was a good thing. And I also was fortunate enough to get involved with a program that had a huge group of other sober adolescents and young adults who had some considerable time sober and who had actually figured out how to have fun sober. Because in my mind, recovery meant I would be really responsible all the time and then kind of stare at a ceiling fan, getting home at 5 p.m. and just go, all right, this is my life. I do good in school and I'm bored constantly. But these other young people were able to, I think, show me firsthand that there was actually a way that recovery could be fun. And I could have friends sober and I could be happy sober and I could have a better relationship with my family. And most importantly, that empty space in the center of my chest that had been a part of my life for years could actually go away without drugs and alcohol. So for me, there was this, I think, combustive reaction between pain and hope. The consequences of my choices had become fairly significant. And because I had been around these other young people, I had hope for a different way. And when I was 17, about to turn 18, I actually decided that I would give everything I had to, that I would give recovery a real shot. And the deal I made with myself was, if it's not better, then I will go back to drugs and alcohol. It's not like they're going anywhere. And it's been 12 years. And it has, up to this point, what I've found is that as long as I continue to do the things that helped me find some fulfillment sober at the beginning, as long as I continue to engage in those things and have a positive community, engage in activities that are meaningful to me, helping others, that sort of thing. As long as I don't get too far away from that, things have not stopped getting better in my life. And we end up telling young people this all the time. The program I work for now has much the same approach that the program I got sober in did. But we talk all the time about, it's got to be better. Recovery has to be, if I'm going to stay sober, it has to be better than drug use. Which doesn't mean that things are awesome all the time, obviously. But for me, that has meant that I get to walk through life as a full participant in it, feeling the highs and the lows. But I get to walk through that with some grace and dignity and like who I am. Because that's the hard thing about acting in the opposite of one's conscience is there were many, many years where I couldn't bear to look at myself in the mirror, and today I can actually do that. I have a wonderful relationship with my family. I have a job that I love. And I think for me, it was really about, for me and for my family, it was really about hope was the key. So I think that's all I got.
Thank you so much for sharing. I love that we're hearing so many identity paradigms in our recovery stories lately, not so much that medical paradigm. So again, linking back to Dylan's educational workshop last month, We have the social identity or neurodivergent medical paradigm of addiction, so different ways of looking at things. So right now, I've never been more challenged in my life running 2 different computers. We are going to go into some government, so approval of our February meeting minutes. Let me see if I can get those up on this screen. I also want to point out that we had a total of 43 people attend our meeting in February. I think that's a new high. All right. Any questions, discussion? Sam, you're getting some thank yous in the chat for your story. If there's no corrections or points of discussion, is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve the February 24 minutes.
We're looking at each other. Do you want a second?
You do this one.
Okay. This is Leslie. I'll go ahead and second.
Okay, so George motioned, Leslie second. We'll vote by opposition in the chat. It doesn't look like there's any opposition. So we will go with a pass. Conflicts of interest for today. We'll start with people in the room. If people, if voting members want to put their conflicts of interest in the chat, and then I will read everyone else who is in attendance who reported on the QR code. Anyone in the room?
Well, Gilpin received funding, but there's no conflict on today's agenda.
Similar to Clear, we received funding for our co-responder program called CChat. And it's not on this agenda.
This is Bud. We were a partner with Jefferson Center for Mental Health on a co-responder program, but I don't see any conflicts in today's agenda.
I'm not seeing any in the chat. We do have Sean from Advocates for Recovery. They are a current recipient of GROC funds. Talia Rodriguez is with JCMH. They partner with Mayor Bud on current GROC funds. Brittany Noble is with the BHA, no conflict of interest. Erica Hag is a Clear Creek School Board member. She's also part of Resilience 1220 and ECHO Prospective Grantees. Sean Henley is a prospective grantee, a current advisory board member from Red Rocks Recovery Center, and a 2025 RFA reviewer. Eric Barker, external relations for the Colorado Consortium for Prescription Drug Abuse. No conflict of interest is employed by CU Anschutz School of Pharmacy. Amber Q, Quality Outcome Program Coordinator for Common Spirit. Theodora, Government Grant Writer, Colorado Coalition for the Homeless, no conflict of interest to report. Bethany Beachman, Grants Manager from the Phoenix, they are a prospective grantee, no conflict of interest to report. Tanya Wheeler, also from Advocates for Recovery, a current grantee of GROC. And Donald Stater, no conflict of interest to report. Right, let's see if we can mouse back over here. Oh, wrong computer. All right, so we have decided to implement a brief finance report in our monthly meetings, just to help with transparency and keep everyone on track. This is not the most straightforward budget I've ever worked with in my entire life. So Chris Havgood is our fiscal contact. He is out today, but we are working with the Jefferson County Workday Specialist to build out a budgeting platform that tracks more of what we do and how we do it with project tags. So that's in development. We also have a monday.com board that's very internal. It's not public facing, but if people do have questions and they would like to see that, please jump on my bookings calendar. I would be happy to do a share screen and go over with how we track the money that way. Chris did put together this GROC money in year to date. So we had 2.7 million in the balance of 2022 and 2024. We received a little over 10 million in funds for 2024, 2025. And then we have $151,000 in interest for 2024. So our year-to-date total balance is $13,014,775.19. In terms of money out, this slide shows our 3 co-responder programs that were funded last year. So there is a total of what their 2025 plan was contracted for, how much they have expensed to date. And this might be slightly behind because we did make these slides last week. And then what the remaining balance is on their contract. I've also included in the quarterly summary report how much each organization had expensed at the time the quarterly report was due so that you could see that. And then just noting that the Gilpin County office that wasn't upfront paid in full amount. Are there any questions on this slide before I go to the next slide? All right, so then we also have Advocates for Recovery is a recovery community organization, RCO. Their 2025 plan contracted what they had expensed year to date and their balance. And then leadership planning and coordination is mostly the Stedman Group, our external consulting firm for their contract. The admin funds are still being organized. So the admin pot, we're allowed to take up to 10%. We've taken, I believe it's 3% is what we've taken. So that would be my salary and fringe, all of the hard work that Eric and John slave away for me with, and then our Jefferson IT, doing our Civic Plus website, all that would come out of our admin. So there was some confusion in back billing. And so we're trying to figure out how to track that. We will have it for you next month though. Any questions here on expenses? All right. So this slide is showing our 2022-2024 cost plan that was officially closed out. So the cost system is what the Attorney General's office uses to report when we allocate money. You have to have all of your funds allocated in order for them to release it to your bank account. And then we have to, if we move money around, we have to do an amendment. And then every year we do an expense report. So this was closed out on the 13th. I met with Jack from the Attorney General's office and we got that closed out. So our total projected spending was $602,466.68. And then our total funding was that $13,987,530.95. It also shows you what we had requested right here. That was everything that was allocated. And then what the balance was. JK, I'm still learning costs. Do you have anything to say of how to help people read this?
I'm not a cost expert.
Okay, that's okay. So this was our finalized plan that was closed out. And again, this plan happened just before I joined the team. So this plan right here is our 2025-2026 cost plan that was approved by the COAG on March 13th. So these are the numbers that reflect the funding announcement for each funding category. We did have some math that was not mathing when we had money from the first round roll over to the second round, and then we did our expense report, and then we had money come in. So it was about $19,000 that we had in our plan that was not allocated. So Chris Habgood and I made the decision to just pull that 19,000 from our administrative costs because we did over project that. And that way we weren't requesting any money. We didn't have to go back to the table and say, where do we allocate 19,000? It was just simply the COAG is still building out this cost platform. So again, when you submit amendments and you do expense reports and the money rolls over, just the timing and the math was not working out. So yeah, this is our finalized plan. Are there any questions moving forward about this?
I had a question on interest. So I saw interest as a revenue source on the, I think 3 slides ago. Interest is from money that the county's holding, right? The AG doesn't pass on interest from their money, do they? How does that, where do you get the interest from? I guess is my question. It was, yeah, there it is.
Yeah. Yeah, so the interest comes from when we call money down and then we don't put it out, it just sits in our bank account. So that is what they would really like us to avoid. But sometimes just with applications, you don't get enough applications, you don't get enough quality applications, so that money just sits and rolls over. So we do have to submit a plan to use that money. And we've said that we're using it for approved uses in Exhibit E. That seems to be satisfaction enough right now.
Okay, so if the money sits with the AG, there's no interest, but if it sits with you, there's interest. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Safe to assume that money is collecting interest somewhere for someone.
I'll hope it is.
Yeah. I will ask at the next learning forum what happens with that. I would assume that maybe it goes into the infrastructure share awards, so they use it for that. But I don't know for certain. I will have an update next month.
It stays at the state level if the money stays with the state. So.
Yeah,
draw
just-
your own conclusions.
Just to be really clear, I'm not trying to express cynicism about the accounting practices of the COAG.
Any other discussion points here? I'm not seeing anything online, nothing in the room. All right. So we do have a proposal for a zero cost contract extension for the Stedman Group. As most people are aware, we did extend their contract to help with my transition to get through April. They will not be using all of the hours or funds that we had projected out. I did work with Stedman Group to propose extending their contract through June 23rd to help us get through the request for applications, group discussion. They provide valuable insight, just what's happening across the landscape of opioid settlements, especially in Colorado. So that would be for no additional dollars. just simply moving the expiration date. Eric, do you have anything to add to that? Are there any questions on this? Sandy?
Not a question, but it's not exactly zero cost. It's zero additional cost.
Zero additional cost. Thank you for that. Yeah, so, yes, Sandy pointed out that it's not no cost, it's no additional cost.
I should probably go. Yes.
So JK did step out of the room. Rosie is online taking notes, meeting minutes.
Would you like me to like step away?
No, Eric said that was okay, that you're just taking minutes.
Okay, wonderful.
Important.
Yeah, because I got 2 computers and 3 screens. I need a little help right now. Are there any points of discussion for zero cost contract extension? Mayor Bud?
You know, this is Bud. Just if you'd speak a few minutes about the work that you're engaged in and the resources and the help that the Stedman Group brings to that process.
Yeah, so I am actually on the coags evaluation team to construct what type of variables people should be collecting and how that would feed into a state level data dashboard. We also attend learning forums together, just how we use dollars, how people come up with the standard operating procedure manual, for example. I run our website, I run our request for applications process, webinars, office hours, brainstorming meetings, the evaluation group. So the Stedman Group has been instrumental in helping me learn the cost system and how we report to the COAG, as well as what all of those different timelines are for amendments and expense reports. So I just kind of flew. I didn't need as many hours in consulting and development as we thought I was going to need by April. So I think the Stedman Group, because they have, I want to say, at least 5 different regional councils that they facilitate on, they have a little bit more depth and breadth on what councils are doing, how they're strategically planning. JK does have his MD. He is an expert in treatment. So I think them being able to provide some discussion insight when we're going through group discussion in the RFA process of what other groups are doing, just the reasonability and soundness of an application would be good insight.
Thank you.
Yes.
And would you remind us of the length of the additional zero cost contract extension and to how far out we're extending the contract?
It would be, yeah, so Commissioner Del Kemper asked how far out we're extending the contract. So the initial contract was slated to end April 31st.
30th.
April 30th. And then the contract would extend until June 23rd, which is the end of the RFA. So about 2 months.
And do you feel that that is enough time, given the scope of work, especially knowing that the applications are coming in, we're going to be reviewing them? We want that, you're shaking your head, yes?
Yes, I do think that that's an appropriate amount of time. We have talked about as a council taking July off, getting a little bit of a break from the intensity that we're going to experience April, May, and June. But I'm working very closely with Rosie and Burke to project out how much time they would spend. I won't know for certain until that application window closes on March 31st, how many applications we're gonna have, but they had 90 hours additional. Great conversation. Any other points of discussion?
I'll just offer an opinion. This makes a lot of sense to me. I'm glad to make a motion. I'm just trying to hold space for anybody that wants to. Questions?
Thank you. So if we can move into a motion.
I would move to approve the cost extension contract with Stedman Group.
Thank you, Mayor Bud, for motioning. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Miss Sandy. And then we will vote by opposition. If people can vote in the chat, in the room. I don't see any in the room. I don't see any in the chat, so this is a unanimous pass. Thank you. So that does move us into the second item of discussion. If we would like to move this type of delegation to the executive committee. So if there is no additional cost in a contract, that the executive committee can make that decision to make that extension. This might also come up with grantees. So I do know of at least 2 grantees who are asking for at least 1 quarter extension of their contract. Again, no additional cost. There's just challenges with post-award support and implementation, that they didn't get things moving quick enough. I think that's reasonable to do at least 1 quarter. If it's anything beyond 3 months, keeping that delegation with the full committee. So I do want to open the floor for discussion.
So just to be clear, you're suggesting we delegate to the executive committee to allow an extension of a contract up to 3 months if there's no additional cost.
That is correct.
And I would imagine that we would use certain criteria as an executive team in determining whether we extend that contract. So we're aware, of course, of why the contract is being extended, not unlike our conversation that we just had, as we think about that, okay? And then we would come back to the council with an update to say, we extended this contract or we didn't, here's why, the rationale. Any feedback from the council that is helpful, questions, we'd still have that open transparency.
Yes,
okay.
absolutely. And in terms of what that criteria is, we can start talking about it and I can start listing those concerns in the standard operating procedure manual. Like I said, I know some of the grantees, they just did not have post-award support, which is so vital to a timely implementation. That extending their expiration date by 1 quarter makes a lot of sense. So I have asked them to construct a budget of projecting out, kind of like we did with the Stedman group, projecting out how they're moving their budget and how they're going to expense the contract in that time. Any other points of discussion? Even from non-voting members, are there concerns about this delegation and extending contracts that are no additional cost?
Chelsea, you said this would ultimately end up in the SOP.
Yes, yes.
I'm just gonna put my neck out there. I'm gonna make a motion to amend the SOP to delegate the ability to extend contracts for up to 3 months if there's no additional cost to the executive committee.
I'll second.
And then we will vote by opposition. So George Mylan made the motion, Leslie made the second. Vote by opposition in the chat, in the room. I'm not seeing anything. George, you want to get JK?
Oh,
right.
That's right.
All right, so
Motion to adjourn.
I did make a note to include the specific language.
invited you back in.
Welcome back.
We will include in the minutes for next month an amended executive committee resolution that shows this change.
Awesome. That's so exciting. Okay, so general updates from me. I have engaged with 54 individuals across 8 webinars and 6 office hours. Please note that this is not a unique count, so some people are repetitive. It's only counting the live attendance, but all of our webinars and the 2 office hours that people actually attended are recorded and placed on the YouTube channel. That has accumulated 200 views. Again, not unique. include rewatches. There is a way for me to get this data in the YouTube content creators panel. So hopefully I can get some of that information teased out when the RFA closes. I've had 20 individual meetings between January 31st and March 21st. So this is just people asking if they have an idea that is an appropriate application, talking about how that fits in the National Opioid Settlement, the strategic plan. I've answered 28 questions in the Q&A form. This does not, and all of those answers are posted publicly in a document. This does not include additional specific questions via email. So people asking if they're a county entity, they don't have a certificate of good standing. So then what do they submit there? That's a case-by-case basis on what they would submit. So I'm still trying to summarize some of those. The non-disclosure agreements for reviewing applications went out for signatures via the Sign Now app. So those are due before April 1st. I have to have that signed copy before you can review any type of applications. So thank you. I think the majority of you have submitted that to me back. We are working on a huge website migration. So right now our platform is GoDaddy. It's very basic, can't do a whole lot with it. But we will be moving into a Civic Plus hosted website that the Jefferson County Public Relations team is helping to design. It has so much more functionality. It can store calendar events. It's just so much cleaner. So I'm hoping that will launch in June. I have a kickoff meeting on Wednesday. It will probably be ready before that, but I don't want to interrupt the RFA process. So people are already familiar with the layout of the GoDaddy website. I don't want to change that until the RFA is done. So again, that should hopefully launch in June or July. We are looking for a solicitation for program evaluation anticipated to launch June 1st. I'm so excited for this. We've been working really hard on that standard operating procedure manual. Eric, Jean, and then Kate Newman, the deputy county manager, have been working with the Jeffco finance team on a fiscal agency relationship policy that does allow us to essentially run business the way we want to run business and have more people involved in that application review process. So again, looking at that, opening June and July with reviews in August. And then listening tours. I hosted Jefferson County and Gilpin County on March 20th. Jefferson County was 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. 15 people attended. That recording is there. I thought I put this on here. I did not. Some of the biggest concerns that were addressed at the Jefferson meeting were transportation, Medicaid subsidies, and then increasing the RFA administration. So this is the first time that we've allocated a 10% admin cost to an application. We don't really have this defined. We're trying it out. We're seeing what people use it for and what people ask of. But there was a request to increase that closer to 14 or 15%. So if a nonprofit works with the Colorado Nonprofits Association, they mandate 14% of every award. It goes to their grant management and running the business on that side. So that'll be a point of discussion after RFAs. In Gilpin County, we also had 15 people attend. That recording is posted on the YouTube channel. Some of the major concerns identified in Gilpin was Narcan training and the accessibility of Narcan. So identifying signs of an overdose versus a diabetic coma, or how much Narcan can be administered, and really what are the side effects of administering Narcan. There is a Senate bill, a state bill right now to waive training. I don't think we should waive training, but if someone administers Narcan and they didn't go through training, they also should not be held liable for that. So it is a broader discussion. Gilpin also identified community ambulance reimbursements for resources, how mental health crises are taxing first responders, so really in need of a secure vehicle transport program. generating data on use and overdose. And like I said, this is a persistent conversation at the state level. We are hoping in the next 2 or 3 years that this becomes more accessible and identifiable. Just knowing that the more people we fund, the more program evaluations we get, and the more of that more specific data we'll be able to collect. They also identified youth programs and prevention education, specifically in schools, and then a collaboration with Boulder County, because they have the Gilpin County School District with one school located in Gilpin County and one school located in Boulder County. So I have reached out to the program managers of the Boulder Regional Opioid Council to see if there's some type of longer term collaboration we can start there. The listening tour in Clear Creek is this Thursday from 12 to 1. We have 19 people who RSVP'd. It will be at the Clear Creek County Health and Wellness Center on Minor Street in Idaho Springs. There is an RSVP right there. Any points of discussion on my updates? Yes.
Chelsea, can I ask you a question?
Theme.
Don Stater.
Nice to meet you. Yes.
You know, the naloxone distribution without training, are you talking about the youth bill that's been put out? Okay, great. I didn't know if you were talking about something else.
Yeah, and I have not followed up since my initial review of that.
Yeah,
So do you have an update on that?
I do have an update. There's 2 similar bills going through the legislature. You know, really one mandates that we add naloxone training and overdose training to the school curriculum, because right now there's nothing in our what gets standardized for kids. So that's one bill. And then a corollary bill is about naloxone distribution, although both of them speak about it. And the thought there is that we don't want the fact that a child hasn't been trained for a child to be able to request, or a student to be able to request and get naloxone, especially since the FDA mandates on the labeling that it has instructions for usage. So we didn't want a child who, let's say, has a family member that struggles with drug use, say, hey, can I have some naloxone for home? And us to say, have you been trained? No. Well, then you can't get naloxone. You know, so that was the principle behind trying to remove and standardize some of that language. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that update.
Oh, and I didn't know, is there another bill though that, so there's no other bill, all right?
No.
Okay, great.
I wanted to ask a question.
Yeah.
Who's putting forward those bills?
The 1293, which is, 1293 was being put forward by Representative Jackson. And then the other one, I think, was a previous bill that was supported by the COYAC, Colorado Youth Advisory Council. I'm not sure who the introducing legislator is for that one, but I think that that Representative Jackson is also associated with that.
Yeah, I always wonder more what constituents are behind it more than the sponsor.
Oh, yes.
That's how they come up with their bills. Are you hearing any pushback about the school curriculum? Because I'm thinking way back to my days when like they didn't want to have like condom use and, you know, like sex ed in certain schools because they thought it would promote it. And I think there's still that mentality in our communities.
Yeah. Thus far, I mean, it just went through the education committee. It was 13 all in favor. The only opposition was, we got a little bit of opposition from COPA, Colorado Providers Association. And I think that some of that came from misunderstanding who was behind the bill. So, you know, I'll be honest, I guess it's not a conflict, we're a nonprofit, but the naloxone project is, you know, works with Representative Jackson on developing that. And some of the fear that COPA discussed was that they thought that manufacturers had brought the bill and that this was a way to try to get higher dose naloxone into schools, which we said, no, those aren't, you know, we're happy to answer those, but those are not the goals of this, and those are not who's behind. There's no funding from drug companies gone into any of this. It's really trying to close a gap between youth education and overdose.
Just a real quick follow-up question. You mentioned House Bill 1293. Do you know what the other House Bill number is?
I'll find it for you real quick.
That'd be amazing. Because we do have an opportunity as boards of county commissioners to advocate for certain bills. It's helpful to have, you know, our counties on that list, depending on what each board of county commissioners would like to do. So please know that we're available to do that. The other thing I just wanted to share too is kudos to Dr. Chelsea for her great work facilitating the JEPCO meeting. I had an opportunity to sit in on that meeting, and it was a really lively, engaged discussion. People brought their questions to the table, which is exactly what we wanted to have happen. And it was really wonderful to see. So just thanks again, Chelsea, for all of your work designing and implementing these meetings. I really do think they're terrific. And then one third little piece. There's like a through line with all three of these, but they're slightly different. At the last COAG meeting, where all the regions come together to talk about their work, the AG's office talked about their efforts to spotlight different regions and the work those regions are doing. And it was actually Rhiannon from the Stedman Group who lifted up her region as an example of the process, the in-depth process that we have in place to help people understand the dollars are available, here's how they can be used, the transparency that comes with that, and really the engagement piece as a potential best practice. I think that was it. Might be worth circling back. But it would be, I've been meaning to mention this, to follow through, to potentially use that as a case study for COAG if the AG's office is interested. They seem to like what Rhiannon had mentioned about our region, thanks to Chelsea's and everyone's leadership. So just on that.
I'll just echo for Gilpin, the meeting, because after I heard from several people that attended that they didn't really know the whole picture, about how the funding came and who's available to use it and how it's being distributed out and all the work behind the scenes. So they were really appreciative, but just to be able to come and see the gaps and communicate the gaps that they know from their work was really helpful. So thank you.
Thank you.
Senate Bill 25-164 is the second bill that was sponsored by COAG. The Senate sponsors winters in March.
Thank you.
Chelsea,
Yes.
this is Mayor Bud. Are there any potential or articulated concerns about including this product to a younger age group? I'm not that familiar with the.
You mean administering it?
Yeah, or having them be able to, as I understand, the legislation would permit a younger population to be able to obtain this.
I will refer to the two specialists in the room.
Yeah, so right now, Colorado students, a bill passed last year that Colorado students have the ability to carry naloxone, including into schools. That passed last year. It was led by a group of students in Durango, Colorado, and then this year is one that says that we should actually train students and make it standard part of curriculum, health curriculum. That's the bill that Representative Jackson is running. In terms of the negative side effects, if a child, let's say, or an adolescent or a family member is dependent on opioids and you administer naloxone, they can be in opioid withdrawal. So that's the one often stated, and the higher the dose of naloxone, the higher the potential for withdrawal or severe withdrawal. That being said, and if I can share actually a story from a high schooler in Golden that babysits my kids. I was talking with her about naloxone and the fact that we're introducing a bill. And I asked her, what type of education have you gotten in school around overdose, fentanyl, naloxone? And she said, no. And I said, oh, okay, I've got no education. I said, okay, so has this not affected your school? And she said, oh, well, actually, as the time I've been a student, she's a senior, she said, we've had 2 students overdose on opioids and die. And I said, what did we do after that? They said, oh, well, there's grief counselors, there's people we can talk with, but there's never been an effort to actually make sure we don't lose another young person to overdose. And that's exactly the gap that we want to close, is that gap of education and the gap of that. Every student in 2025 where accidental overdose is the top killer of young people should know about fentanyl, should know about how to recognize an overdose, and should know how to administer naloxone.
Thank you.
A question, and then just a quick comment on these 2 bills. For what it's worth, they both appear to be flying through the legislature.
I think that there will be there's some, like I said, voiced opposition, and I'm of course deeply invested in both those bills passing, but but I think that we can get, I think that opposition's from misunderstanding the bill, the intent, and who's behind it. And I think that with our efforts that hopefully it'll be unanimous in terms of. But yeah, these are both gonna fall through. They've got amazing bipartisan support for both the bills.
And then my question, Chelsea, I know I've asked you this privately. Have website accessibility requirements that are coming along right around the same time that we're launching this website. Is this website going to be compliant?
Yes, yes. So the Jeffco Public Relations team is already on that. We're kind of getting a little by on our GoDaddy site because we're in the process of migrating and they're keeping up with all of those requirements.
Okay.
Yes. So I did not put a point up here, but I did want to give an update on the CCH complaint. So this was initially brought to the attention of the executive committee for further discussion and research by Sean Henley at Red Rocks Recovery Center that some Medicaid programs are doing a blanket 4-day cover regardless of the substance or the need. And so there is mixed perceptions of whether this is happening or not. From what I can tell, it seems to only be outpatient treatment centers that are experiencing this, not inpatient treatment centers, or if they also do behavioral health, like they have more billing codes to use. I don't know, this is speculation. I'm not 100% sure on this hypothesis, yes. But I do have a meeting on Friday on Spirit to talk about what they're seeing and what their referral team is seeing. So it seems to be hit or miss on who is experiencing this blanket practice. I did do a landscape review. Still going through that of what that is. JK, do you have any comment on this? Because you actually gave us a really good email on the coverage. Do you have anything to add?
No.
Okay, I was like trying to put you on the spot. Yeah, so we are looking at this, just keeping in mind that yes, while insurance should be paying out for detox, it might be in the council's interest to consider almost like an emergency scholarship for short term, where applicants still have to provide insights on how they are trying to recoup and work with the insurance companies to get that money. I know we don't want to set a precedent of insurance companies not paying out because there's opioid dollars available. But at the same time, people are still losing their lives either way. And so if we can step in for a short-term reprieve and hold people accountable through evaluation, that might be in our interest. All right. Are we ready for the bulk of the meeting? My own notes. Leslie also did drop a link to HB 1293 in the chat. Sharon Hawkins also asked, do I understand that one of the bills is to offer Narcan training to students? When will we know it gets passed? Yes, Sharon, it is offering Narcan trainings to students. And I believe the link that Leslie dropped in the chat will give you that live update, but it does seem to be flying through legislation. All right. And then Senate bill is also in there. Thank you so much, Leslie. Sure. Okay, so the request for applications closes on March 31st. Between April 1st and April 7th, Chris Hapgood and I will be working on a sorting matrix and previewing applications for completeness, making sure that they have all the required documents in the right format. Oh, sorry, before I go on, Sean Henley commented, just an FYI, I met with COPA per the council's recommendation last month about the CCHA issue and confirmed that there are other providers experiencing the issue. It's not just limited to outpatient. We experience exclusively with our inpatient services, and that is consistent with what other providers are experiencing. Thank you so much for that update. So yes, we will keep you appraised of how that evolves. So back to the review. Window closes March 31st. That first week of April, Chris Hopkins and I will just be sorting applications for completeness. I do have a 2-hour meeting with Eric. Thank you so much, to go over how applications will be sorted for review, addressing all sorts of conflicts of interest. And then that will be presented to the executive committee at the 1 o'clock meeting to make sure that we have all the reviews, we've considered all conflicts of interest, see if any changes need to get made to that matrix. Again, just a reminder, every application is supposed to be reviewed 4 times, once by one voting member representing each county, and then once by an advisory board member who's already been approved. We might have to do some more targeted outreach for subject matter experts. Again, I won't know until those applications come in and we start doing that matrix to what degree those gaps need to get filled. So I have a pre-discussion preparation for you. So every reviewer will independently assess the grant application using the criteria that we've already been over. The rubric is posted to the website. And you will put it in a monday.com form. So we'll go over that process today. Going over the mandatory application information, project title, funding area, project description, target population, timeline, budget, the bio sketch of key personnel, and then the evaluation plan. Again, noting that letters of acknowledgement and letters of support do not have any numerical value. They will not be shown to the scores of the application. They will only be brought up in group discussion if the application advances to that round. And then I give you suggestions for how you should approach your review. Because I know not everyone in here is a professional grant reviewer. So you should just read the application once through. Don't take any notes. Just get a feel for what they're talking about. Maybe starring sections that are a little confusing after that first round. Then you're going to read it a second time for more detail. Writing notes in the margin using the comment feature. There is a box on the scorecard for you just to take notes. And then again, we're aiming to use Google Drive in a password protected folder. So you'll have editing comments so you can do track changes and write notes to yourself on the application. And then organize your thoughts and develop an outline to address the review criteria. And then when you write your review, evaluate the appropriateness of the approach. So again, the location, target population, the organizational experience, capacity, and budget, and assess each of the review criteria, writing up strengths and weaknesses of each. And then at the top of the rubric, you are asked to summarize the entire application. I said 6 to 12 sentences. You can go over that. But you're summarizing the application, and then you need to identify 3 strengths and 3 weaknesses. So this is a great way for you to organize those thoughts. And then you're going to provide your overall score, keeping the tone honest and constructive. So all of those applications, once scored, they go into, again, that monday.com form. The back end looks kind of like an Excel sheet, and then there's a formula set to average the score. This will help identify the natural break. And then all of the applications above the natural break will advance to the next round of group discussion. Those below the natural break will be held. They're essentially not going anywhere just yet, but those would be the eliminated first round of applications as not funded. In group discussion, tentatively, we will talk about renewals first. So those are semi-non-competitive. And then we're going to talk about capital. And there's a separate category for capital because let's say they're asking for construction costs to build a treatment center that they also have short-term sober living. That money would come out of recovery and out of the treatment bucket. So we're going to do capital first. That way, again, the Stedman group can help advise where the application best fits in Exhibit E and in the strategic plan to pull that money out. Then we'll know how much money we have left in all of the other buckets. And then we'll talk about prevention, treatment, recovery, harm reduction, planning and coordination, or workforce development. This order might change just depending on the number of applications we get in each area. And like if I can collapse prevention and treatment into one day, then we'll do that. But I'm going to try my hardest to keep sections off. That way when you're thinking about what paradigm to review the application in, I can keep you in one mindset all the way through. We'll start with a 3 to 4 minute overview of the application that goes to group discussion. So that will be presented by me, the general overview of the application. Then we will move into individual presentations. Each person who scored the application will have 3 minutes to talk about the application. So they should go through that summary, their 3 strengths, 3 weaknesses, and really any points of contention for group discussion. That would be your 3 minute presentation. So that should take roughly 12 minutes. Then we'll open the floor for 4 minutes. Ideally, this is where our community members, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns about the application, pending you do not have a conflict of interest, we would ask for your input. Voting members, any questions or comments or concerns at that point, and then we would move into an advance or not advance of the application. I am getting you guys all little fans to hold up. So you'll hold up the green fan if you like the application, you want to move it on. You'll hold up the red fan if the application's dead. You're gonna have a yellow fan if the application should move into extended discussion with the executive committee. And then you're gonna have a blue fan if you have a conflict of interest, so everyone knows that you're not allowed to speak during that application. So yes, very college group communication. Yes, Sandy.
I have a question. Last time when we were hearing the presentations and reviewing, it seemed like people applied for a certain bucket, but then they kind of fit into a different one more. And then we didn't end up funding all of them because there was kind of some grayness there. Will that be predetermined before it comes to the reviewers by someone like you, or?
Yes.
How will that work?
Yes. So Sandy asked if someone submits to, let's say, treatment, but their application might fit better into recovery, how would that be remedied? So ideally, that's something I would make sure that if they submitted to treatment, it is best suited in the treatment bucket. And if I have to move an application to a different funding bucket in that initial sorting, I'll go ahead and move it to the funding bucket. It's also a lot of applications do crossover buckets. That would be more of an administrative remedy for me on the back end. So just keeping in mind, we can move money around. So just because we put $10,000 in treatment and $5,000 in recovery, if we need to move $2,000 from treatment to recovery, we can make an amendment to do that if absolutely necessary. This is also where I think having the Stedman group help advise how we can play with money that way would be really helpful on the back end. Yes, Dr. Dunn.
I have two questions for
Yes.
you. The first is for the individual presentations. Well, if you submit an application, you're not allowed to speak. If there is a point or question that can be clarified, would that be asked of the potential applicant at that juncture?
If you make it to the next round of revise and resubmit. Yes. So again, in the first round, the council did not have the administrative support of a program manager, and they used a different mechanism. They used an RFP. So the Stedman group was not allowed to be involved as heavily as they probably needed to be. So the council will be highly encouraged to think of the general idea, and if they want to fund that idea, any questions and points of discussion that come up will be summarized into a Word document that actually brings us into that next round. They will be given back to those applicants to answer. So it's a written revise and resubmit. Can you answer all of these questions? Can you have all these clarifying points for us? You would respond in that document. Then in the final round of group discussion, again, we would open up with a roughly I gave myself 5 minutes. That way I could read off all of those questions. Again, reminding the council what the application was about. And then we'll have 8 minutes for general discussion. And even then, the council will still be highly encouraged to consider the idea, not get caught up on a meticulous detail of question, And then that's something that I can mitigate in contracting with the applicant, serving as a liaison for the council. And again, if we can't reach an agreement in contracting, then it's just not funded. And that money goes back into the pot, rolls over for the next round of funding.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Chelsea.
Yeah. So yeah, I also give you some conversation points here for group discussion. So again, asking clarifying questions to better understand the proposal, the review's rationale. I will have read every application from start to finish. I will do my best to memorize it from front to back. So if there is an immediate question that I can answer, it's on page 4 of the application, just to better direct people's reading. Make sure that you're offering a critical analysis. Again, community members of the proposed service area are highly encouraged to participate in group discussion so long as they have not submitted a competing application. So no conflict of interest. Consensus building. At the end of each session, we'll rearrange kind of where the rankings are on the applications in terms of order of funding that we're leaning towards. I'll send out that revise and resubmit, and then we'll come back to group discussion. For the final application review, I've allotted 15 minutes per application in the final review. That's again, 8 minutes for general discussion, focusing on clarifying questions, a critical analysis and consensus building, and then 2 minutes for a final vote. Any questions on how this process is going to work? This is very similar to how NIH and SAMHSA do their application reviews. I do expect some hiccups. I'm sure there's something I have not yet thought about that will come up, and we will try to be as transparent as we can in how we mitigate that moving forward. Again, key discussion points, the project significance, the appropriateness of the approach, the target population, accessibility and equity, project feasibility and sustainability. Important considerations, again, confidentiality. So we will not be able to pull up the whole application. We will only be able to discuss in the group meetings those summary discussion points that reviewers make in the rubric. Trying to be fair and objective. So that's where Eric is going to really help us with conflicts of interest. As it stands right now, almost every single person has some type of conflict of interest. We won't have anyone available to review applications. So we'll try to be as clear as possible as what is constituting a conflict of interest in each area. And then always provide constructive feedback. You will always be graded on how well you articulate your ideas. And sometimes it's not necessarily the idea itself that's bad. It was just how it was communicated in the application. And so in July, after the RFAs are closed, we've announced awards. I will be hosting another webinar on how do you revise and resubmit. So once you get that feedback back from the reviewers, you've listened to discussion, how do you make your application better for the next round to get funded? All right. So on this, now we're going to go over some rubric education. So I have drafted 3 different applications, 1 not so great, 1 pretty decent one, and 1 star-spangled awesome one, so that we can talk about what we're looking for in each application. So the first one is an opioid treatment program. That's the title of it. It obviously went to the treatment. Their background, they only gave us, I would call that 1 sentence. The opioid epidemic is bad in our area and many people are affected, so we have to do something about it. We know this, that's why we're here. So please give us a little more depth and breadth. Description of the proposed work. We're gonna help people with opioid addiction by providing naloxone. The most important question that you need to answer in the scope of work is how and why. Get very specific in this how and why. Objectives to help people stop using opioids. Again, that's the premise of the council, so please give us something different here. And then the timelines start in January and in December. In the webinar, people were encouraged to use like Q1, Q2, and Q3 because while John is awesome, depending on how many applications we decide to award, I don't know if he can contract all of those in July. So some people might have a Q1 of August, September, October. Some people might have a Q1 of September, October, November. Yes.
So I did read it over in the, and, I would suggest, I took it to mean Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 during the year. So you might want to clarify that, just like Q1 after award, Q2 after award.
Okay.
Rather than like, well, I would say most people would consider Q3, July, August, September. So I totally understood what you were getting at, is like, we get this all the time. We'll get notifications like a year after we apply for something and our timeline's totally shot.
Yes.
So it's definitely better to look at like month 1, month 2, month 3, rather than May of 2025. But you may get some disparate responses in your
Yes.
applications on what the cues are.
And I did go over this in the webinar more extensively, but thank you for bringing that up here. Yes, so applicants were encouraged to use things like month 1, month 2, month 3, Q1 post award after contracting, because again, that would be a sliding scale of when they start. And then personnel qualifications, they do have a bio sketch template. And so this again is following that NIH format. So it is consistent. So we don't have like a CEO of JCMH submitting a 10-page curriculum vitae. And then we have someone who just started a nonprofit, but they're doing really good work, have a 2-page resume. Just to make it very consistent across the board. The bio sketch is not allowed to be more than 2 pages in length. There is a very specific order so that you have consistency looking across people. The bio sketches should also only be like the top 4 people most heavily involved in the program. All other people involved in the program will just be listed as an additional attachment. The budget, you do have a snapshot of the total amount they are requesting. For most people, this is going to be a 2-year total. Then they have, we did ask them to break it down for you and put the year 1 total and the year 2 total. The budget template is an Excel sheet that, again, is intended to be a general snapshot of their entire project. So if you see an $800,000 application, remember that's most likely over a 2-year period, $400,000 the first year, $400,000 the second year. You can ask for an itemized year-by-year budget if that's something that you have concerns about. In the webinars, applicants were told to prepare an itemized budget in case the council asked for it. But the template is really just intended to be a general snapshot overview of what they're going to spend money on and how it links back to Exhibit E approved uses. And then again, we did suggest a 10% administrative cost as kind of like a general overhead for them to pull out utility bills to run the grant, things that they need to keep the lights on, a little bit of money for the grant manager, general indirect supplies. Some people are asking for 14% administrative costs because they work with like the Colorado Nonprofits Association. Some people are only asking for 5% administrative costs because they are able to put those costs elsewhere on other grants. It's already covered. Maybe they included a very specific line item for something. All of this will be explained to you on the budget sheet. And then again, I will be going over all of those so I can help fill in some of those gaps or questions. Then they have an evaluation plan. This is an upload. There is no template for it because every evaluation plan is completely specific to the work that they're doing. So then I have some feedback here. This application is extremely bare bones, not descriptive. Applicant would benefit from giving this application to someone else and seeing what questions they have about the project and then addressing those questions in the application. All right, proposal 2. We are getting a little bit more background. Remember, this is like the decent application. So opioid overdoses have increased by 20% in the past year. Our local hospital has seen a rise in emergency room visits due to opioid-related incidents, and there is a lack of accessible treatment options for low-income individuals. They are going to establish a community-based opioid treatment center that offers MAT and counseling services. The center will be located in a high-need area and will serve low-income individuals. They have two primary objectives: reduce opioid-related overdose by 15% within the first year and provide treatment to at least 200 individuals in the first year. Their target population is low-income individuals and families, and then individuals with co-occurring mental health disorders. They're asking for $200,000 over a 2-year period. So $100,000 in the first year, and then they gave us quarterly milestones of what they're gonna do, and then a snapshot of the budget in each quarter. So again, just kind of breaking it down for you a little bit more. They're giving you more insight. They give you the year 2 budget, a quarter with some milestones, and then a snapshot of what that quarter 2 budget is. They did give us bio sketches. It's compliant. We have no qualms with it. Here's their budget again, telling us 200,000, 100,000 in each year, and then they gave us a budget work plan. Their evaluation plan is much more extensive. They're looking at process measures. They gave us outcome measures, how they're going to collect the data, who's going to report it, and then how they're going to do continuous improvement or reflection. So then I have some feedback. This application is definitely better than the first, but could communicate more need and solution clearly throughout. For example, since the applicant identified target populations, they should include community-specific data on how the socioeconomic status of its community members, like the mean income. So how do they know their community includes low-income individuals? For example, someone wants to do a recovery home specifically for LGBTQIA+ individuals in Clear Creek County. They should provide some type of statistics that says, 1, LGBTQIA+ individuals exist in Clear Creek County. 2, those individuals are seeking recovery housing. So they should fill in that gap for us so that we're not funding a community-placed program. They have said that there is a need for this. They also identified those with co-occurring mental health as a target population. So they should, again, include some relevant health data from the local hospital of how many patients have co-occurring mental health disorders. The background is up to 500 words and they only gave us 40. So they can include a lot of that information in the background for us. That's my wrong computer. The scope of work has a 500-word limit and they only gave us 30, so they could be more descriptive on where the MAT is coming from, the training they will offer before giving it out, or at least when it will be offered. So we know that people don't have to go through training, but are we still offering the opportunity to go through training? How counseling services will be provided, like what type, frequency, who, how do people sign up, how are they evaluating success? What type of case management model will they use? What is the patient to staff ratio? Do they use an app or other patient management platform for scheduling? So again, I'm in these feedbacks, I'm trying to prompt you to ask certain questions and look for certain transferable information in the application. So they claim that substance use has increased by 20%, but objective 1 aims to reduce it by 15%. That's really, really ambitious in the first year. I'm ambitious, but we should be a little bit more, how are they going to do that? Do they have the capabilities to do that? Additionally, objective 2 aims to serve 200 people in the first year, but they didn't tell us what their current average is. So if they're serving 300 people a year, and then their goal is to serve 200, okay, that's still pretty doable. But if they barely serve 100 people in the first year, and then they're aiming to serve 200, we might have some concerns about their capacity and their implementation to actually achieve those goals. Again, I don't want the council to get caught up on this goal. Express it as a concern. And then if you still like the general idea of the application, express that general concern, let it move into contracting and allow me to do some of that capacity building of what is a more realistic goal. The timeline is detailed descriptives, provide estimated budget snapshots per year. Evaluation plan is great. It could be improved by incorporating some comparative data. So benchmark treatment outcomes with similar programs in the region to gauge relative success, increasing stakeholder involvement, longitudinal tracking, and equity monitoring. And then finally, a qualitative impact. Stories really tell the meaning of data. You might have only a 5% impact, but if that was a deep and meaningful impact for some people, that 5% might be pretty comparable to a 50%. So qualitative is just as valuable. Any questions on the decent application? I'm not seeing anything anywhere. All right. Here is the Star Spangled application. I would expect to see a lot of these just in my reviews so far. I have seen some awesome applications. Your work is definitely cut out for you. I'm glad I have no decision power in this. Bless you all. Okay, so we provide community-based health care, including mental health counseling to Test City, Sample City, and Example City of Region 10. Our organization provided MAT services to 250 individuals last quarter, in addition to 500 mental health counseling sessions. The Tri-City region we serve has a poverty rate of 22%, with most living below the federal poverty line. The median household income is $35,000, significantly lower than the national average, and the county has a high percentage of minority population, including 40% African American, 25% Hispanic, Latinx. So now they have laid the foundation of their service area for the whole council. Your commissioners might have all of this information, but some of your other voting members might not. Or the commissioner from Jefferson County might not have this specific information of Black Hawk City. So again, asking people to paint the picture for you. Our data sources primarily include patient charts, and app that surveys patients every 3 months, and they have a 53% response rate. Data indicates opioid-related deaths have increased by 25% in the past 2 years among their patients specifically. It specifically shows that rural communities and low-income individuals are disproportionately affected. There is a significant gap in accessible treatment and recovery services across 30,000 residents. So again, painting the picture, we have an idea of what they want to do and where they want to do it. Their proposed work is to include an MAT, mental health counseling, peer support, harm reduction services program located in the main office building in a rural area to continue serving low-income individuals and families. They will partner with local health departments, community organizations, and law enforcement to provide a holistic approach to opioid recovery. So this is where they would want a letter of support, or better thought of as an agreement to collaborate, a letter of acknowledgement, or have a list of people they already contract with, so that when we're thinking of implementation timeline, we know their ducks are in a row. They gave us objectives, expected outcomes over 2 years. These are all very reasonable. They're easy to understand. They gave us a target population of their geographic catchment area.
Dr. Chelsea, 2 quick things. One, we're getting a little feedback through our speakers here, so I'm not sure if maybe someone is not muted. And then it looks like Sean has his hand up, but I'm not sure if that was up from earlier.
There we go. Looks like everyone on our side has muted. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Sandy, for that.
Thank you. And then Sean said his hand was from earlier. Yes. Thank you so much. I can get them on 2 computers because we were having some technical issues, and I have 3 different screens. I do have the chat up, so if you have a question, you can just type question in the chat so I can get to them. They explained their population of focus, where they're located, statistics of the service area, or statistics that they already have serving their target population. So again, this is really good. Talking about capacity, needs, and gaps, things that they have identified, how they came to that information. And then again, identifying that letter of support, which is better thought of as an agreement to collaborate, a letter of acknowledgement, or they can supply a list of organizations that they already have MOUs or contracts with instead of a letter of support. That is really just to show the council that they don't have to spend 3 months trying to build relationships and walking through political red tape, that those ducks are already in a row to have a timely implementation. In the timeline section, this is a whole narrative. So they gave us a snapshot of their 2-year budget. They gave us quarters, or again, months. After implementation, they gave us 3 per quarter. Then they gave us a final snapshot of the yearly budget. So again, breaking it down, doing all of that crosswalking for the review committee. They did the same thing for year 2. They have attached their bio sketches. We don't have any qualms with that. It looks good. Budget, 1.6 mil, 800,000 each year. Budget work plan looks good. Then they give us an evaluation plan, again, identifying outreach metrics, program participation metrics, so number of participants enrolled, their program outcomes, system level outcomes. Performance assessment plan, so how they're going to collect the data, the frequency of collection, what instruments they're going to use, data security and confidentiality. Again, this is different for every single program. If it is a treatment program, I would expect something this extensive because they have to have all that information anyway. But if it is a recovery community organization or sober living, those metrics might look a lot different. So again, the evaluation plan was not prescriptive. People were encouraged to, at minimum, include number of participants, how it connected to their objective, and who would be collecting the data.
This raises a question in my head. Should we expect evaluation costs to appear in an admin line item, or should they be called out separately?
It depends. So applicants were told that they could hire an external evaluation firm. That would be a line item that they could use. Ideally, if it's someone in-house, we would want it to come out of that admin cost, but we don't know what people are going to use that admin cost for. So in this round, there was no prescription of what had to come out of admin, but we did ask them to tell us what they intended to pull out of that. So evaluation might be a separate line item. It might be coming out of the admin.
Okay, thank you. I'm trying to prep my brain to be ready for this trade-off between really, really great evaluation and really, really high admin costs driven by that evaluation, right?
Yeah, so if they were hiring an external evaluator, then that should be a pulled out line item as a contract in column 2. If they were doing it in-house, and let's say it's someone spends 0.25 FTE, a quarter FTE of time, just kind of doing evaluation, then we would really want that to come out of their administrative costs. And this is something where, again, I don't want you to get super caught up on, but express that concern. Allow it to go into contracting where we really hammer out what comes out of where. And then in the next round of funding, we can get so much more prescriptive on what should be an admin cost and what should be a line item, because now we have a better idea of how people are using that and what percentage they really need. And then I give you some feedback. There will never be a full, complete, unquestionable application, but this application is a great job stringing together the logic of the project for which they are requesting funding. The background section provides description of the implementing organization, keeping details to only those relevant to the project for which they are requesting funding. They include local data and paint a picture of their community, linking this to their target population objective section. The background section has a 250, 500 word limit. They only use 158 words, so there's still roughly 100 words. They should expand on their program offerings. Since they identified local health departments as partners in the scope of work, The application would be enhanced by including letters of support from those anticipated partners. Note that this is support, not acknowledgement, because they agreed to collaborate with the applicant. So again, there's no point values for this, but if this is something that the committee really wants to see, we can ask for those in the revise and resubmit round. Like, do you have your ducks in a row? Show us before it goes into final group discussion. Objectives are realistic and reasonable given the organization's current capacity. Applicant identified justice involved as a target population, but it's unclear how they will target this group. Do they already have a relationship with the local jail or district attorney? They might want to include a letter of acknowledgement from such relationships and include how they already or plan to outreach within the background or scope of work section. The timeline is generally realistic and descriptive, but could be improved. Oh, I did not say that because I thought it was good. Sorry, no feedback there. First glance, the budget seems really high. We would like to see the amount of funding requested in the 2025 RFA for general funding to decrease over time, demonstrating the organization has sustainability. This budget might be better described in the budget work plan template upload. The applicant could also describe their current funding and plans for sustainability in the background and work and scope of work sections. All right, any questions on that? Got a really good idea, a not so great, pretty decent, really good, looking at what those transferable items are, how we can ask for revise and resubmit. Yes. Okay. All right, so we are going to do a practice evaluation now. So if you are a reviewer, I did email you a link last Monday to a monday.com form. I don't want that going out to everyone because then I'm going to see everyone using a rubric. That's the same rubric link that we're using in actual RFAs. So I want to monitor where these are coming from. So now would be a great time to pull up that link. And you are going to actually score an application. I will go through those scores after the meeting today. And if there's any significant outliers, I will reach out to you one-on-one for some more coaching, training, or education, depending on kind of asking like where you're at. Do we need a minute to find that link? I will bump it up in
Do you want us to start filling it out or
Yes.
follow along?
Yeah, you can start filling it out because I did send you guys this practice application ahead of time. And then I will just have it up here. I'm not going to read it out loud. That way, again, people can focus on that rubric.
Sorry, on the first one, it gives us option 1, 2, or 3 for our name. Just pick one.
This is why we do a practice round.
Did other people get that?
I think you can still type in your name.
I did, but it didn't take, so.
Did yours? Yeah.
Oh, I'll try it again.
Oh, no, it didn't actually, after I clicked away from it. It let me type and then.
Yes, right.
Just not go.
Titty, where did you get to that?
Is that you're in the Cambridge Space Counties?
This Monday.
That should be pretty good.
Sadie, I'm changing that right now.
Okay. Is it all set? No, not yet.
No.
Yes.
Oh, it says it on the application is the same.
Residential.
Option 1, 2, 3.
That appear exactly.
Should we click on option 1 for that too?
She said she's gonna.
I'm fixing it right now.
Are you fixing both?
Yeah.
ones?
Yeah, for which application are you reviewing? Just put option 1, 2, or 3, because that will be input for you once we get those.
And then Dr. Shore, once you're available, there are a couple of questions in the chat.
States.
Just gonna hang out.
This practice application.
Yes.
We do.
So if you are, Elisa, I did not want that link to go public because that's the link that we are using for all applications moving forward. So now I have to change that link. But yes, that would be the link.
I did, I just clicked on it. The RFA practice. And then I got the practice application.
Heidi, in terms of where you put your name, that should be updated for you to write in your name. Okay, Janie said it's not the actual link.
Try refreshing the link. Did you do this? Yes, this one here that I found. Application there. That just goes to. Oh, and it looks like this link has been fixed for the name.
So I did send you all an email. I bumped up that email that has all of the documents to practice the review.
Just have to fit in this.
Dr. Chelsea, just to confirm, so the application that we're reviewing, it's option 1, 2, or 3, so what?
Yeah, because once we get all the applications, I'll give you names. So just pick option 1, 2, or 3.
How do I know which one I'm doing? I'm
Just
sorry.
pick one for right now.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't matter right now.
Okay.
Because everyone only has one application. But in the actual form, it will have names of applications that you are reviewing.
So I guess I'm kind of lost. Do you
Okay.
want us to enter in the boxes? Summarize your proposal, 3
Yep.
seconds, even though we don't have a proposal that we're reading.
That's this one.
Just use
That's-
that one.
Yeah.
Number 2, the
Okay.
RFA practice application.
Yeah.
It didn't pop up.
It says practice RFA evaluation.
But we had to bring that up from your email.
Yep.
Separately.
So
Yep.
So it doesn't matter if we put 1, 2, or 3.
No, not for right now. It's okay. They will have more descriptive names. Barb, yeah, just select something for right now for your name. That might be when you open the link versus when I updated the form. It will be a type in. Troy, yes, you do have a link. I emailed it to you last week, and then I bumped up the email in your email thread a few minutes ago. This is why we do a practice round.
I think the project title and funding area selection and the project description, the questions are the same. So. Yeah, they look the same to me.
Are you talking about on the scorecard on the Monday form?
Yes.
For project title, funding area, and then the project description?
Yes.
So if I'm pulling up the RFA review form, how do I see the application?
The one that's on the screen?
Can't see that far.
Yeah, so that was emailed to you.
Okay,
It's also in the agenda.
Mayor Starker, I can email that link directly to you real quick.
I got it, Rosie. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Proposal. Can create. Screen. A split screen like that.
well, you know how to do that pretty well.
Thanks. I can use a Mac.
Should be a PC.
It's not Macs.
I gotta roll, I'm sorry.
Just make sure that you get that done soon, okay? So that
Oh.
There.
Looking at the Mac for dummies. So. Thanks so much.
Bye, bye. Take care.
Take care.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Dr. Story, I'm updating the project description part of the form right now.
Same here, really quick. Okay.
I will drop the Word document of the full rubric in the chat.
Sneaky.
All right, being cognizant of time, I know we only have 2 minutes left in the allocated meeting. If you could please finish this, that would be awesome. If you need to do it later today, I completely understand. I know rubric training is not the most exciting thing, but this will give me insights onto, does this form make sense? As you can tell, we did do some corrections to the form right now, having multiple eyes looking at it at the same time, actually using the form. And then again, I will go through all of the scores looking for extreme outliers. And then I will reach out on a one-to-one basis if you need any type of additional training or education on the rubric or form. Sandy.
Does it autosave as
Yes.
I go so we can come right back?
It should. It should. I think
Wants to go out.
it honestly depends. Like if I'm on my Mac and I close my screen and I open my screen, it will still be there. But like the security on my county laptop, I don't think it would still be there.
Well, I guess I'll just close it.
It's extra practice.
That is always a drag, isn't it? When you're like, can't quite finish.
Yes. And then again, while people are finishing, I will stay here and I will stay on. Please ask questions. Otherwise, we do have an ad hoc meeting, completely virtual, scheduled for April 14th. I will be sending out an email on April 7th, notifying you if that is a go or if we are canceling that meeting. It just depends on how many applications we have and if we need that time. And then April 24th, that will be our next in-person meeting. In-person is preferred. There will always be a virtual option. Like I said, I'm gonna have those little fans for you to advance the conversation. And we will be going over hopefully renewals and capital at that meeting.
It worked.
Yay, good.
Is it April 28th? April 24th is Thursday.
Oh, yes, it is April 28th.
Normal time.
Oh, sorry, normal time. Oh, there it goes. I fixed it. Thank you.
I was confused. I was like, wait, what?
Like yours is good a day as any other day.
Dr. Chelsea.
Sean, yes, just go ahead and pick any of the options right now that will have the actual name of the applications that you're reviewing. That way they cluster together. So just pick anything for right now.
That's nice to meet you, Sam. Congratulations. Thank you for sharing your story. Yeah, appreciate it.
Specificity, these are points for one. And then can I just put in 25, but I also noticed there are these toggle switches.
Yeah. So you can just type in 25.
I can just type it off. Yeah, okay. Okay.
We can also do lunch.
Oh, I see.
Oh, yeah, lunches are great.
Yeah, just because I know like it's. So that it's pretty busy.
Yeah, I don't.
I've had like 4 people look at this just like, not until people actually start using it.
Right.
Oh, you're ahead of that.
Right. No worries. It's good to work it out now.
Perfect. Yeah, let me pull up my calendar and make sure. I'm
There. Actually, the first was really
We're
well.
also doing like cookies and community events.
It's strange. Sometimes when I type it in, it auto corrects and goes to something, but not all.
Doing an event for like the.
Okay.
Terry just sent an investment.
That's the project description. I fixed that part already, Liz. Okay, so if you were to reload, it would describe all 30 ones for you.
Okay.
I could do the first or the eighth.
There's like,
Yeah, like right at the.
there's some, right?
Grand.
This way.
Wyoming on the eighth.
Oh, sweet, where are you going?
I'm going to Cheyenne actually today, and then I'm back the eighth. We're doing
Hey, Sam.
today, tomorrow is
Thank you again.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Irish high-risk industry.
Oh.
And then and then
That's on.
on the eighth we.
Yeah. Really. There's always learn something new too.
Yes,
From those stories, and then they're all always.
So just Thursdays are also good for you.
Fridays. So the first, when is the cookie thing?
Because we had, we didn't get a chance to discuss much, but thank you.
Absolutely.
They put it down for
You
12:30.
see it. Bottom, yeah.
12:30 to.
Excellent.
1 o'clock.
Nice.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about the technology.
Oh, no problem.
Supposed to have like your video up
I
there.
usually go like way right after that, so, Friday,
Like a 3-day issue.
the,
Never fun.
Yes.
Yeah, more straightforward.
No.
So,
Okay.
yeah, no worries.
yeah, I could do.
Right at the 11th.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Guys.
Are we good?
It'd get interesting, like there are.
Yeah, I'll be down. Oh,
I didn't have a sense for how many people were hanging out online until the meeting I missed. Well, the meeting I had to do virtual last
I
week.
can.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With you, not
It feels
Okay,
very,
80.
of course, they're not saying, really anything.
Yeah.
oh, okay, that
Yeah,
actually.
perfect.
totally-
Yeah. If you're gonna, we can do.
Yes.
Oh, that'd be great.
Or like, or downtown.
I could do this Wednesday.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Now we're on. Okay.
So are we fine on the 11th then?
Yeah.
Is that-
Spelling.
11th?
Friday, Friday 11th. I could do that, yes.
Yes, okay, let's put that on the books.
Okay.
Yeah,
With that.
yeah.
JK.
I like to think I
Do 12:30.
today. I was,
Okay, 12:30.
it was so different. I didn't. Sorry, I was so upset because I've been talking to him so much, but I was so concentrated on trying to figure out how to.
Yeah.
Folks who are still with us online, thank you so much for joining. Please feel free to drop in the chat or connect with me or Chelsea if you have any additional questions.
It'll be fun, some peace and family.
Otherwise, thank you for joining. Connect.
Like
I guess it's not too.
to help
surprising.
monitor online and help with IT, and then
Yeah.
sometimes talk about like.
Yeah. Sarah.
I can't agree.
Yeah.
Likewise.
That wasn't wrong, and instead of, I was thinking about something.
Yeah, the cushion, yeah.
Jumped in. So I was starting to, while you were going through.
I know.
Not like.
I Chelsea is doing that, and I looked at my dad.
I looked at you, and I'm like,
I know, I didn't want to throw more things off.
it's right there.
I will never.
Yeah.
I knew by that.
Cause you're like scrolling and we're just all sitting there.
So we have to see.
And it's different when you're.
Yeah, it is.
Like doing it intelligence.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it is. I definitely need. And there is a difference. I've noticed like when Rosie's physically compensating and is able to help me versus she's completely remote. He is able to help me. It's just
Like
like,
ask if that was what was the difference do you think this time?
I think we kind of brought it down when I have both my laptops up and she's completely remote. I can,
But I don't
I
know.
can't facilitate both and then she'd do it in minutes.
Uh-huh.
But today it was just, I was down in laptop. Yeah, I was down in laptop and I was down in.
You're welcome. I'm glad.
And then way out of this thing, it was purely technical.
Is this video working? I was wondering
It
if.
wasn't working for me on Thursday and then it's not working today. and
We
I
have an
tried
LCS
to
study.
get- And I guess they came in later in
Better
the
respond.
For stuff, whoever else was in here.
it's still getting
So then we
integrated
try to pick the day.
as far as
Kind of late, keep it back at
knowing,
30.
finding that line of which scenes are appropriate.
But I
and which
seen
scenes
it
aren't.
like took
So
me
I
from
got
my
on the side.
laptop and.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you. Have a good day, guys. Okay, thank you.
So I think there's some evolution to do there, but it's hard to.
So.
But I don't have it.
Bye, JK. Thanks for coming. Hopefully this comes back today. I don't know if it's just like the board and the laptop that they gave me.
Something's tricky with the connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're struggling to remember who to reach
Well,
out to,
things
you
to
can
like,
always just shoot me a
think
question.
about, I am paying attention to like that kind of support for when Steven.
Yeah.
How.
Appreciate you being out here.
Yeah.
Get that
Excited.
right.
Like I said, I hope they can be more involved.
Yeah.
That's like things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much. So much for coming. It was great to have you.
Bye. Bye-bye, George. See you
Bye.
soon.
See ya, have fun.
Thanks. See you later, George. Thanks so much. How far is it from here? 20 minutes, not 15 minutes? Do you know?
All right, Rizzy, I think we're gonna call that quits on the video, and if people do have
I feel like we were.
individual concerns about the rubric, just to email me directly. I did incorporate a lot of the feedback that I got here. And I will just follow up via email on Wednesday and make sure I get those preliminary scores.
Who will do it and make sure that the messaging is.
Perfect. That sounds like a plan. I'm just getting some minutes cleaned up. I will get them to you by the end of the day in just a little bit here. And let's keep in touch via email if there's any support Burton I can provide to you this week. Good luck with the listening tour.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, talk to you later. Bye.
Never have done that.